probably among Indiana Fever, but Aaliyah Boston, you know, she did play at South Carolina, so that's something you might want to think about.
Now is waiving 2 players as the regular season draws all so close. The team is now parting ways with Jillian, Alleyne, and Bree Hall.
By what they can do, what kind of flexibility they do have, and again, salary cap. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, overall, by the way, I do think Bree Hall will get snatched up by somebody, all right? I do believe that.
The Indiana Fever just made their first brutal cuts, and Bree Hall didn't make it past training camp. Yes, the same Bree Hall who dropped 9 points in 16 minutes against Brazil, gone before the season even started. But here's what's crazy, it wasn't her skills that got her cut.
The Indiana Fever having to make some cuts, and those cuts are happening right now as we speak.
The Fever are in a salary cap nightmare right now, and they can only keep 11 players instead of the usual 12. Is Bree Hall about to become another team's treasure because of the Fever's financial problems? You know what's wild? Bree Hall was actually balling out in preseason, and now she's looking for a new team before the regular season even starts. This isn't just any rookie. We're talking about the 20th overall pick who played alongside Aaliyah Boston at South Carolina. These two already had chemistry together.
Bree Hall, who was a college teammate of Aaliyah Boston at South Carolina, didn't play in the Fever's preseason opener at Washington.
Hall came into the Fever with a solid background and showed she belonged on the court. Here's what makes no sense. Hall dropped 9 points in just 16 minutes against Brazil in that preseason game. She was making shots, playing smart, showing exactly why the Fever drafted her.
Or versus Washington, but scored 9 points in 16 minutes in the 108-44 win over Brazil in Iowa.
Then boom, cut from the team. When a player shows that kind of potential and still gets waived, something doesn't add up. Hall brought real skills to the Fever. Her shooting touch was on display in that Brazil game. She has those defensive instincts you can't teach, and she already knew how to play with Aaliyah Boston from their South Carolina days.
Probably among Indiana Fever, but Aaliyah Boston, you know, she did play at South Carolina, so that's something you might want to think about.
That's the kind of connection coaches dream about, and the Fever just threw it away. Look around the league and you'll see rookies who made rosters with stats that don't touch what Hall showed. Some teams are keeping players who barely saw the court in preseason, while Hall proved she could score efficiently in limited minutes. How is that fair? The math doesn't make sense.
Jillian, Alleyne, she's out, okay, in case you're and Bree Hall, both out.
Fans are shocked by this decision. Many thought Hall would beat out Sydney Colson for a roster spot. Social media has been blowing up with people questioning why the Fever would cut someone who clearly has game. One fan even said it'd be nice if they could carry 12.
So that's interesting. Fever fans expecting Bree Hall, role player at South Carolina, to beat out Sydney Colson for the roster spot.
And that's exactly the problem. The real villain here isn't the Fever's coaching staff or front office. It's the salary cap. Indiana is so tight against the cap that they can only afford to carry 11 players instead of the maximum 12 allowed by league rules.
Can carry 12 players, but because of salary cap limitations, the Fever will likely only have 11 players on its roster. Wow.
They're literally leaving money on the table because they can't afford to use it. Which team is going to be smart enough to pick up Hall now? She's got the talent to make another roster in this league, and she might end up making the Fever regret this decision down the road. While this is obviously disappointing for Hall right now, her career isn't over. It's just starting somewhere else. The real question is, which team actually has the financial flexibility to give her the opportunity the Fever couldn't?
Overall, by the way, I do think Bree Hall will get snatched up by somebody, all right? I do believe that.
This situation shows how these financial limits aren't just hurting players like Hall, they're affecting how the Fever can build around their superstar rookie Caitlin Clark. Let's talk about the real problem here, a league where teams literally can't afford to keep 12 players, even though the rules say they can. The WNBA salary cap is tight, really tight. Teams can spend about $1.4 million total on player salaries for the entire season. That's it. And the Fever, they've got so much money tied up in their veteran players and Caitlin Clark that they can only afford 11 players instead of 12. You know what's crazy? The NBA has this whole G League system where players can develop, they get coached, they get get paid, they get better, but the WNBA, they can't afford anything like that. If you get cut, there's no safety net, you're just out. And it's not just rookies getting hurt by this.
I know some people have brought up the idea of a WNBA G League.
Veterans like Jillian Alleyne are in the same boat. She just got cut by the Fever too, even though she was putting up monster numbers overseas. 18.6 points, 13.8 rebounds, 2.5 steals, and 1.4 blocks per game in Turkey. Those are star numbers, but the Fever still couldn't keep her because of money. These money problems force teams to make impossible choices. Do you keep the promising rookie who might be great in 3 years? Or do you keep the veteran who can help you win now?
Getting enough money now, and I understand we've all went over the reasons why they don't make any money. You certainly can't afford to create a whole nother league.
There's no good answer when you're working with pocket change. For a team built around Caitlin Clark, this is especially rough. The Fever need to surround her with shooters, defenders, and rebounders. But how do you build a complete team when you can't even fill all your roster spots? It's like trying to build a house, but you can only afford 11 bricks instead of 12.
Now is waiving 2 players as the regular season draws all so close. The team is now parting ways with Jillian, Alleyne, and Bree Hall.
A lot of people slamming the former general manager for getting this roster a little jacked up right now.
Fans are getting fed up with this. Every time a talented player gets cut because of money, people start asking questions. Why is the league set up this way? Why can't we keep more players? Why doesn't the WNBA have a real development system? The league needs changes. Maybe bigger rosters, a higher salary cap, or some kind of development league. Something has to give because the current system is wasting talent. The one silver lining, teams with more cap space now have a chance to grab players like Hall and Alleyne who shouldn't be available. One team's financial problem becomes another team's opportunity.
Best of luck to you, Bree. You're a good player. I know you will land in the right place.
So while Bree Hall and others are feeling the sting right now, their stories aren't over. The question is whether the league will fix this broken system before it loses even more talent. This whole situation with Bree Hall shows what happens when money gets in the way of talent. She clearly has game. Dropping 9 points against Brazil in just 16 minutes isn't something to ignore, but the Fever couldn't keep her because of their cap problems, not because she's not good enough.
First roster cuts of training camp Monday. Rookie Bree Hall, Jillian Alleyne were waived by the team as it narrows down its opening day roster by what they can do, what kind of flexibility they do have, and again, salary cap. I mean, it is what it is.
The good news, Hall will probably land on her feet. Players with her skills don't stay unsigned for long. Someone's gonna look at what she did in preseason and give her a chance. I'm just wondering which team is going to be smart enough to sign her, because whoever does might end up with one of the steals of the season.